Hi, and welcome to Dream Talks. Today, it is my absolute pleasure to bring on a friend of mine. This man is incredible. From 22 years of service to our country in the United States Coast Guard, and to being one of the inventors of podcasting, everything that we do in social media and in getting a message out there today, this guy was like the pioneer. He can even tell you why it's called podcasting. What's really interesting about this gentleman is God gave him a name, and the name is Dr. Proactive. And I'm gonna have him unpack exactly what that looks like. The guy is definitely somebody that's deeply involved in what we call spiritual intelligence, in dreaming, in hearing from the Lord, and all of that. And he's got a very, very interesting story, a behind-the-scenes story to tell you about what happened recently in the state of Virginia with the election there related to spiritual intelligence. And so without further ado, please let's welcome Randy Gilbert. Hey, Dr. Proactive.
Very, very, very nice to be able to be with you in this interview. Really looking forward to it, John. You have done amazing things, and I can only hope that I would be able to help out with what you're doing.
Oh man, it's an honor to have you here. I just love your heart for the nation, the things that you've done, just in helping people with business. Of course, your service to our country. Thank you for your service.
Yep.
It's been incredible just to hear some of the stories. And we got to meet in person and have dinner and talk for about 6 hours. And man, it was just such a rich time. But let's start with now you retired as a senior officer in the Coast Guard, right?
Yes, I went through the Coast Guard Academy, and that was one of those things where the guy that actually prayed me into the academy, the recruiter for that particular academy class, his name's Jerry Hale. We have worked together all these years. Because he prayed the class in. He wanted all of them to be Christians, and it was one of those things that I was the beneficiary of that. I had become a Christian before while in high school, but really hadn't done anything. But when I got there, God just grabbed me and made me his. Filled me with the Spirit, but by the time graduated from that class, we had more Christians in that class than any other class ever at the academy, well over 50%, and quite a few became Christians even after that. So it was really an amazing, and of course, being in the Coast Guard itself, there was a lot of things that happened that God used my talents. I believe it was meant for a purpose. And so it was a really good service. Anyone who has the chance to get into the Coast Guard, in fact, one of my good friends, his second son, just got in and is on a little buoy tender that actually is an icebreaker just outside of New York City, and just as happy as can be now.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. We used to, when I was in the Navy, we used to tease the new guys and tell them that we got mail by buoys, and we'd stick them on the front with a life jacket and a big hook, and tell them to look for the mail buoy.
Yep.
Wow, that's great, man. So after the military, you went into what did you go into? You went into, how would you describe what you went into after the military?
What God had me do was I was in the maritime safety part of the Coast Guard, had really changed shipbuilding rules just tremendously. Back in 1987, I was actually given Engineer of the Year for the federal government for some of the work that I did.
Oh, wow.
Tankers especially, but passenger ships, they're far safer nowadays than they were back then. Basically the Exxon Valdez was one of those that taught us a lot of things that we were doing wrong. But I started the Center for Maritime Leadership. God had told me to get out and basically help the industry directly to have the highest safety that they can have, and so helped. It was one of those projects of a lifetime with designing tankers that were far above government regulations, and still the safest tankers in the world. They built 3 of them before 9/11. And so,
Wow.
yeah, they spill less oil in a year than almost any gas station in a day spills, whether it be gas
No
or oil dripping.
kidding.
The cleanest. They've never had
Wow.
an accident. They are by far the safest tankers.
That is incredible. Now, when did you realize that God was giving you, speaking to you, guiding your paths, giving you downloads and things to create solutions in the modern world? And when did you get the name change too? Tell us about that.
It was one of those things where the things that were going on in the world as far as making changes, the word proactive came out,
Hmm.
and it was one of those things that God just was showing me insights, giving me insights of what to do to help be proactive as far as changing things. I was one of those that started out with the total quality movement in the military.
Yep.
The Coast Guard was the first federal agency to really embrace it. I was right at the forefront of doing that, and we use that throughout all of what would be maritime safety for the shipping industry. So it really worked out well.
Wow.
And so I got that name, Dr. Proactive, as a part of what I did, and took that basically into the maritime industry. And so what happened though was, and it was right before 9/11. But basically, God had said, "Okay, I want you to actually, sell your shares in the business you started, and uh, and I want you to teach proactive things to the rest of the world, not just the maritime world." So
Wow. That's
that's what he
amazing.
did.
Wow. Dr. Proactive. I love that. I love that. So that's been with you since then, pretty much, huh?
Yes, yep, and yeah. So he basically had me start with writing a book, and and the major part of doing that was to learn how to promote it and learn how to promote others, and
Mhm.
in part promoting Christian authors, but then really opened it up to do a lot more. And through that, I developed being able to have Amazon bestsellers. I was one of the first to do that, learning how to use the internet to promote books and speakers and things. So got very much connected with the book publishing world. The folks that did the Chicken Soup for the Soul books,
Wow.
still selling more books than the Bible, or not except for the Bible. They're
Except
selling
for the
more
Bible.
books on anything else. Over
Wow.
over a billion books sold in the Chicken Soup for the Soul. So Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen were clients, of mine, and a whole bunch of other major authors. But it was one of those things. You mentioned a little bit about podcasting. I saw the internet as the biggest broadcasting station in the world, so I
Huh.
started off with an internet radio show, and started
When
then.
was that?
Well, that was back in 2004, 2005.
Really early.
Was
Yeah.
what was when that really started happening, and so it taught it to a lot of people. It became very popular. A lot of authors used it, and of course, a lot of times the podcasts were put on a little iPod, and people would be listening with headphones while they're walking or running, and so instead of internet radio show or internet radio, whatever, podcast was definitely a much easier word to use.
Wow. Wow. I love that. So, one of the fathers of modern podcasting.
Yep, that and promoting books. Almost everybody now wants to make sure their book is a bestseller on Amazon to
Yeah.
start with. Yeah, it became a mainstay.
That's
Yep.
amazing, man. And I love the fact that you worked with just some major authors and influencers and help people to build platforms and get their name out there and their message and just creating solutions for people who God was speaking to, whether they knew it or not, and had an answer and a solution to the world that needed to be heard.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where there were a number of things that I believe the Lord gave me the opportunity to sort of see the future on, and that's part of being proactive, is believing in that God has a really good future for us. That victory is ours, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I got into politics, and I got a little picture back here of Dr. Ben Carson. That it was one of those things where he did a speech. Basically, what he said was the second time of being able to speak at the National Prayer Breakfast, and
Wow.
off his right shoulder was President Obama. And I just had that sense that that's the black man that should have been the first, the first black president, African American. Because I was actually had lived for quite a while in Maryland, very close to where he served, as a hospital as a neurosurgeon. Anyways, it was one of those things where I said if I could promote a book author, or I could certainly promote a politician. And started off with with a group of maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 folks that were friends on Facebook, and formed a pack. And Run Ben Run was basically the call of the internet. And within a year, you went from 50 people to 5 million easily
That's
in the
amazing.
pack. And we had petitions, and he said his whole living room was full of petitions asking for him to run. And so he did run for president. And the problem was that we didn't have enough experience in actually getting people elected. Not enough people were actually either Republican or Democrats. We were just a bunch of people that recognized that there was a real believer there that needed to be president. Excuse me.
Wow, that's amazing. I just love the fact that you guys kind of, grassroots decided to draft a man that you believed in for
Yep.
president of the United States.
And he ran. And what was really special to me as Dr. Proactive is he really, really wanted to know what are the problems of the United States that we can solve. If I become president, he said, I want to be able to really solve the biggest problems. And so, we put together an entire team of people to do that. And in fact, we actually started a team that's sort of a special forces feel to it, called Elite Carcinators. And so it was amazing. We were doing just lots and lots of things behind the scenes, but as if you were a trained SEAL or a special forces in the military, but working on the internet to basically attack the problem, so to speak, and get things happening. Which, by the way, is one of the things that really attracted me to you right away. Is I had been involved right after he decided not to run because we didn't have enough experience to actually get him elected in the primaries, and he interviewed with the few that were left, because he was neck and neck as far as polling goes with Trump for months. And
Wow.
but we weren't able to get him to get any higher than 5 or 6 in the primaries. And he interviewed the other candidates that were left. Trump was one of them. And one of the biggest things that Ben Carson told us in him making the decision to drop out was that he was going to be promoting President Trump. And one of the reasons was because President Trump had promised that when he becomes president, that he would basically take all of the solutions that to the problems that we had provided to Ben Carson and make them happen. And
Wow.
so I can tell you for certainty that every single thing that we're going to that Ben Carson was going to do, that President Trump did or was well underway to
Wow.
solving the problems. Big major things, and it was very exciting to see that.
That's incredible. That's amazing. Well, now somewhere along the way too, you got involved in politics as well. Obviously, more than just the Ben Carson thing, but you started taking official positions in Virginia, huh?
Yes, and as God works things out, uh, uh, I was sort of complaining to a friend of mine who had was in the Republican Party, local Republican Party, and I was really upset to start with because I had actually been stationed in Governor's Island, New York.
Mm.
When Trump had gotten a divorce and gone through some really bad real estate and business things, and and so for me it was like, oh no, this guy can't be president, but God showed me why he was chosen, and but then what do I do? How do I promote Trump? And anyways, so she says, well, why don't you come to a Republican convention? And I was like, what's that? and she says, well, just sign this paper and show up here. And of course, that got me elected onto the committee. And going to the first meeting, everyone was sort of reluctant to take any leadership positions. And one of them was, being the events chair. And I said, well, shoot, I'm really good at coordinating, things and setting things up. I sort of jabbed the woman that invited me, and I said, well, if you be that, the activities chair, I'll be the events chair. And and so that got me involved in the local politics. And I was just really, really good it was just, I don't know, very inept, to say the least, to start with, and but really got it going really well. Really recruited a lot of people into this local party, and so the next the next convention, got myself elected as being in charge, being the chair of of the local party. So that, yeah, that that was my 2 years of experience. Went from zero to being in charge, and we made a lot of difference. And I of course promoted the heck out of President Trump. Virginia itself, quote unquote, didn't give him, the electors didn't elect him, but we were definitely moving along with learning how to do it right.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. What a history. I love that. So from there, you're chairman of the Republican Party in Shenandoah County, Virginia.
Yep.
And so what tell us about what happened recently? Last year.
Well, uh, well, just a little bit more of a backstory for the presidential race and the Senate race.
Uh-huh.
That was uh, Dan Gade ran for Senate, and he's a Christian Army officer, and
Mm.
and I was the first person he actually spoke to when he decided he was going to run. That God had told him on his heart. And Dan and I just really sort of knew each other through a friend and through Officer Christian Fellowship. But I realized that God was calling me to be involved in helping political leaders to know what's the right thing to do.
Mm.
And Dan and his wife are beautiful Christians, and I still believe that that he did better than than what the poll or the actual outcome happened. He did quote unquote lose, as far as not getting elected. And very similar to Trump, almost exact same kinds of numbers.
Mm.
But it set me up with the thought that God was using me in a special way. And what happened this year, and basically the things that happened with the November 3rd, 2020 election, that made me very angry. I felt like that things were happening behind the scenes that were just not appropriate. That it really wasn't, quote unquote, the will of the people of Virginia. And so I really set my heart to making changes. And as God does things, and Romans 8:28 is definitely one of the most important verses to me, that I really believe, and we know that all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. And I just really believe that God works things out for us. And so, a bad thing that happened that made a huge change in my life is my brother-in-law, who also went to the academy with me, is one of those that became a Christian because of my witness and helping him to get to know Jesus Christ as Lord. And then, of course, I introduced him to my sister, and
That worked
which
out well.
definitely, yeah. Well, then she came to visit him instead of me. But anyways, he contracted COVID, and I just really believe that healing does take place, and sometimes it really needs to come with a strong amount of prayer. And so I set up a 24-hour a day, basically a team of people to pray for him. People that we certainly had close friends and certainly church members here, but it got me on my knees more than I had for a very long time. As a Christian, I sort of did the required 30 minutes a morning, praying, reading the Bible, that kind of thing, and just it there was a time, back, during those early years, the academy years, when praying for an hour or two was a typical thing, not the standard. And I hadn't done that for a very long time, and in part just because I'd gotten so involved with other things, with business and family and stuff. But anyways, it is where God was dealing with that, and also I believe with my anger. I really believed that I felt like we had something taken from us that should not have been taken, and I was a part of that January 6th crowd that was down there. Thankfully, the Lord told me to hightail it out right away after after I did go close to the Capitol and wanted to just see what was going on. But when I did see what was going on and saw the Antifa people scurrying by me, I told the gang that I was with to let's head to the closest metro station and get out of here. And that's what we did. So didn't get myself in trouble, but it is where I really believe that God was needing to deal with that part of me. And the way that he did it was to tell me he was going to help restore what would be righteous elections. And so he gave me a Bible verse, and it was Proverbs 10:9, and I wrote it in my prayer journal. And John, are you still there? I'm not seeing you. I'm seeing just me.
Yeah, I'm here. I was just gonna.
Okay. No, that's okay. Anyways, Proverbs 10:9 says, "He who walks in integrity walks securely, but he who perverts his way," and I take that as commits voter fraud, will be found out. And it is where God was saying, "I will teach you how to have righteous elections in Virginia." And so again, I took that as, I want you to be on your knees all the time in the morning, not just praying for your brother-in-law, but for all the other things that really mean a lot to you. And of course, being able to have righteous elections became a real important thing to me. And so I was basically, hearing from the Lord, in my spirit, that He was going to help me with doing that. And then I was hearing Him saying, "But I also want you to be able to do something more for me." And it was, I think pretty much most of my life I've been, Lord, whatever you want. I don't think I've ever turned Him down from from anything. And so he says, I want you to become an ecclesia warrior. And it was like, never heard of it. God, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? And so he started teaching me what it meant. I mean, yeah, actually, in my own spirit, I heard him say, "Well, it's a new term. You can even look it up, in Google. You're not going to find it, but it's very important to me, and it's for these times, these end times, and so I totally agreed, and then very very soon after that, two things happened. One is, John, I started listening to your Dreams Through the Bible series. You had just started doing them, and God told me to pay attention to every one of those. And
Wow.
so I did. I made sure, as soon as you posted the next one, but it was only maybe two, maybe three of them. And there was a time when, with any of the candidates that that are running, they come to each of the counties, and they try to get as many people that are going to support them. And anyways, Glen Youngkin had agreed to come to Shenandoah County, and that morning in prayer, and I have my prayer journal, which has now also become my dream journal. And
Nice.
anyways, God very clearly, I believe, told me to basically saying, I I will pick a candidate who's going to be a champion, and that's what I wrote up here. And then he says, I've got five things I want them to do, and I want you to give these five strategies to Glen Youngkin when he comes today. And so I quickly wrote them down, and then wrote them down twice so I could rip the page out of my prayer journal and give it to him. And so I met with him, and I told him, I said, God is looking for a champion, and if you do these five things, I handed a piece of paper to him, that page out of my prayer journal. I said, God said that you're going to win if you do these five strategies. And so
Wow.
you
That's
know
a bold statement.
yeah, it was clearly from the Lord, though, and but it was because of what, at least I believe it was because of what you were sharing in the scripture of how bold, when God had given these guys the dreams, of how important it was, and it wasn't just it was dreams about or with people, especially with Joseph and the Pharaoh. It was leaders of an entire nation, entire region, a country, and and it was like, I don't think I would have been that bold if
Wow.
I hadn't realized how someone as insignificant, really, as Joseph was, at least at the
Yeah.
time, uh, that he just did what he was told to do, and and so I did that, and I hadn't heard anything from Youngkin. Still working on typical politic or basically parties work to make things happen. But he was coming. It was about 6 weeks later, and of course I listened to a whole bunch more of your Dreams through the Bible, several dreams, and so I hadn't actually had any dreams yet, but I heard again that the Lord was basically saying, basically, I want you to give that information to him again. And this time I typed it up, and my wife Kathy, who's like brilliant editor, she went to a Catholic school, and so she knows English and spelling and things like that far better than I. I was an engineer, so I still spell two, all the different ways,
Right.
combined and mixed up, or there, and there, and anyways, so and I wanted her to meet him also. A lot of times, it seems like women are just really so much better at being able to sense, a person, and have a discernment about them.
Yeah.
And so I wanted her to also meet him. So So she came down with me to our county office area in Woodstock. And met him. And I don't know if you have that picture, John, but both Kathy and I are fairly short. And Glen Youngkin, yep, there he is, is a real tall, basketball player kind of guy. And he's just a Christian businessman. He had never run for office before. He really believes that God told him to quit his job and to run for governor.
That's amazing.
And so he basically we took that picture, and then I gave him those same 5 strategies typed out. And
Typed out this time, right?
yeah, I want because I wasn't sure if he could even read my handwriting. And but he pulled his wallet out. He said, no. He says, and he pulled his wallet out, and he opened it up, and he pulled out that page that I'd given him. This is 6 weeks later. He pulled out that page, and he said, no, I look at this every morning. We're going to do these things.
What?
I mean, talk about a commitment. And anyways, the Lord had also given me at that time another word for him. And so I spoke it to him, and I said, well, God also wants you to practice synergy of the ages. And he looked at me with just this almost a wow, like I just gave him, another piece of gold or something. I don't know, just
Yeah.
And he says, I could use that. And I was like, well, no, you have to use that. And I said it, and it's it's young and old, working together, but it's much more than that. And so I also told him that Virginia basically had the founding fathers, which helped the rest of the nation come together. And I said, right now Virginia is doing exactly that. God has put us in a place where Virginians are now going to help basically pull the federal government back together. And so I said, we are in agreement with, and you need to actually mention George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison.
Wow.
Basically, Patrick Henry. The first governor. And every single speech after that day, he mentioned them. I mean, so basically all 5 of the strategies he did brilliant. It would take me a while to go through them all. But in the news now after the Virginia victory, they do mention quite a few. One of them, of course, the very first one was we need to get the Republican Party actually doing elections again, not just voting. And it was just a massive effort that he put together.
What do you mean by that? Doing elections and not just voting?
Well, being election officers, one of the things that we have in Virginia law is that you are supposed to have 50% Democrats and 50% Republicans doing elections, actually running the elections.
Okay.
And so you need election officers. And then also you need poll watchers. You need people who are, and so there's some of our counties and some of the larger ones, Fairfax, Loudoun, a couple of others, where, it was down to, 90%, sometimes 95% Democrats and only 5% Republicans doing elections. And so the opportunity of doing wrongdoing is really, really great. And so anyways, he basically put an entire program together to do recruiting. And so it became fairly well known that we recruited about 7,500 people to both be election officers and poll watchers and train them all. And then, basically put together coalitions of groups to work together. The second one is really important. It basically, what God had me write down was that
Now,
he
don't give
needed
away
to,
all the strategies, though.
well, well, he needed to help the down ballots to win, and then they will
Yeah.
help him to win. That's what God had given me, and
Wow.
but just as an example of him figuring out how to do it to the max, he actually put 3 million of his own money, his own dollars,
Wow.
into a PAC called Virginia Wins, and then hired a guy to vet candidates from school board to supervisors, all the different candidates on the down ballots, and of course, also the House delegates, which is
Sure.
one of the reasons. Todd Gilbert is actually my delegate. He's not related to me, but he is my delegate and actually lives down the road from me. Uh, and and he's another one that's like a giant, just about the same height as Glen Youngkin. I call him jokingly my little brother, because he's that big. And but
Wow.
but he's someone that was the minority leader of the House of Delegates, and if we were to have a majority of Republicans, he would become the speaker. And so I basically put on that strategy that God told me is you help him to Todd Gilbert to get enough of delegates to win their election, and he becomes the speaker, and so it's amazing that he put that much money into it, and anyways, he did all of the different strategies.
Well, so let's recap
really
real
well.
briefly. So God used. Oh, we got an echo. Okay, so God used. I still hear myself. You got me open twice?
I don't think so.
Okay. So basically what happened is God used an illness that your brother-in-law had to really allow you to press in further on your prayer life.
Yep.
And that was a catalyst. And part of that too was kind of, you said the Bible study that we were doing and kind of the introduction to the idea of spiritual intelligence, dreams, visions, prophetic words, and really just sitting still and hearing from God. And so kind of those two things coupled together, you are praying one day and God downloads to you a strategy about how to win Virginia.
Yep.
And you write this down in your own prayer journal.
Yep.
You meet the now governor elect, right? You meet this guy running for governor.
Tomorrow is his inauguration. So that's why I'm
governor
this weekend.
So you literally rip out a page of your own prayer journal and you hand it to this guy, not even sure if he can read your writing, not sure if he's going to follow through, don't really know what this guy's going to do with it. You run into him 6 weeks later. At this point, you have it all typed up. You still continue to pray. God's given you further things to say, like the synergy of the ages. You're talking about stuff. You meet him and you say, hey, I got this whole thing typed out for you. And he pulls out his wallet and he says, no, I look at this every morning. Literally a page ripped out of your own prayer journal.
Yes.
And not only is he doing it, but one of the steps, which was basically form a coalition or create a unity or community of people running that were vetted, that could work together, forms this. He puts $3 million of his own money into elections. Now, if I heard you right, they went all the way down to school board positions.
Yes. Yep.
In the state of Virginia, not just the House, not just lieutenant governor and speaker, but all the way down to school board. This guy's funding elections for everybody that his people have vetted that they know are going to be righteous candidates in the state of Virginia.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just put an exclamation point on that because we as a party, at least locally, had not gotten involved in school board elections before. And we decided this year, though, that we were going to. And so I put that forward as the chair, for my committee to get that approved. And then Glen Youngkin, his PAC, Virginia Wins PAC, gave, there's a guy that joined my committee at 18. He's now 20 years old, running for the school board. And he got $2,000 from Glen Youngkin to do that, and the other two guys got $1,000 each, and so we have 3 school board members that won and flipped the school board so that it had been basically a 5-6, and now it's 4-2. So so anyways, because of what he did, I believe we flipped the school board.
That's incredible. So this is what, when we talk about people getting involved and wanting a righteous nation and wanting to see,
Yep.
Election integrity, wanting to see righteousness and justice restored throughout the land. And, there's people that are doing conferences and getting the word out and interviews. And there's even citizen journalists that are rising up all over YouTube and they're getting the message out. But when they talk about doing something, this is grassroots things that had never been done, as far as in the state of Virginia before. And this is something, again, I just love that it's literally a page ripped out of your prayer journal, like the power of one person that already knows, has his identity firmly in the identity that God gave him, Dr. Proactive, providing real solutions to a flawed world. And as he's praying in the morning, God gives him something, knowing that this is a guy that's going to be faithful. This is the guy that re-engineered the tankers globally, right? This is the guy that stopped oil spills around, in our oceans, different things that you've done. This is the guy that really started podcasting and started getting so many authors to, become bestsellers. And now suddenly you're involved in politics because you had a passion, not necessarily for politics, but for the man, Ben Carson, and that you found a guy that you believed in and you said, you know what, I know how to create influence. I'm going to get behind this guy. You went, it didn't work out. I mean, certainly the guy was a candidate. He was in the primaries. He went a long way. And I think he's known in the public sector today, very likely because of the work that you and your team did. And then you went into, I'm going to start as an events coordinator for a local Republican party.
Let me just also say that Ben Carson did become the secretary of Housing and Urban Development, which is his love, because he wanted to save the cities, and he still is. Oh, wow. That's his intention.
That's amazing. Man, I love cities too. God put on my heart city transformation years ago, and that's so cool. And so you end up the events director of the Shenandoah County Republican Party. 2 years later, you're now the chair. Like literally for such a time as this, page ripped out of your prayer journal, handed to this businessman that's never run in politics before. God downloads a strategy for how to win. The guy keeps it in his wallet, looks at it every day. And not only him, but the lieutenant governor and the new speaker and the attorney general and all of these people that now you've flipped the state red. Now you've done it, as they say.
Yeah. Well, it is one of those things where, let me just also share that the fourth strategy was to support the walkaway movement, in the sense of that he needed to be able to have African Americans and Latinos basically as a part of his campaign. And it was right, when I gave him the strategy, it was right at the very beginning of his campaign. He had just made the decision to run for governor, and it was right then at that time that he started helping Winsome Sears and Jason Miyares. Winsome Sears being just a wonderful had been a Marine, a woman, a black American, actually from Jamaica. She was an immigrant from Jamaica, and just a wonderful Christian woman. He started helping to promote her so that she would win the primary, because it's a separate primary for lieutenant governor. And then also Jason Miyares, whose mother was an immigrant from Cuba. He was born here in the States, but his mother had come over just when Fidel Castro was starting to really do the mean and terrible things that he's done. And so we have both an African American and a Latino who now, one's lieutenant governor, the other one's the AG, and so again, who could have ever expected someone to follow through with that fourth strategy to that degree? you
To
know.
that extent,
And so
yeah.
now we have the governor, lieutenant governor, and the attorney general, just absolutely beautiful Christians, you know, serving our state,
Mhm.
you know, and they're going to be inaugurated tomorrow. We're praying that
And
there's
you're
a
going to be
no-fly
there.
zone to keep the evil away. But you know, things look good because of what happened.
Wow. And you're going to
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah. Hey,
That's
can I
awesome.
get you to share that postcard too? Because I want to talk about the Speaker of the House is Todd Gilbert. There we go. The Todd Gilbert, we're not related. Again, I jokingly call him my little brother because he's actually I don't know, 6'6" or 7 or something like that. Just another really tall guy. But anyways, I got this postcard from Todd, who is also our delegate. So we had to vote for him this last election, and he put on the state candidate. So he has Glen Youngkin and Winsome Sears and Jason Miyares on this postcard. Basically, you know, stand with our Republican ticket. When you go to the polls. And and anyways, I saw this and I said, "Wow, what a nice postcard!" And so I'm going to use this to pray for these guys in the morning to give me something to look at while I'm praying. And I put a little note because while I was praying, God very clearly, I feel, spoke to me and said, when these guys win, I want you to write a book about ecclesia warriors. And and that's another discussion to have. But this is just to sort of finish this political part. Was Todd Gilbert just happened to give me a call that afternoon, early afternoon, and excited about some getting actually money from money from the RNC, the National Republican Committee, to help promote his the delegates in Virginia. In fact, one of the things he said was he said that they're asking me how in the world I've been able to get so many Republicans to early voting. And this was 2 weeks before the election, and Virginia had already had 2 weeks of early voting.
Mm.
And and it was actually the third strategy for Youngkin was you have to win the election before the election. And so he made that a part of his strategy to get early, get people out to early vote. And by early voting in person, it prevents voter fraud, prevents anyone from stealing your vote, and
Mm.
it saves him money where he doesn't have to mail anything, postcards or whatever, toward the end of the election. So anyways, Todd Gilbert, when I told him what God had said, he said, wait. He didn't say if they win, you write the book. He said when, and I said absolutely. That's what God was saying when these guys win. And so I wrote it on the postcard, as a commitment
Wow.
that I'm writing this book for Ecclesia Warriors. So, anyways, this is something that I believe happened, John, because of the things that you had been teaching that just resonated with my spirit. It's one of those things that sort of, as Dr. Proactive, I've been able to see things sort of into the future of what's going to become a reality. And so spiritual intelligence was one thing, but being able to see so many more people having dreams that God's giving them. And God does give a lot of people dreams all the time. But the recognition, though, that it's God speaking in those dreams has not been there before.
Mm.
And so that was something very clear that spoke to my heart, was that was an important thing. And so I enrolled in this spiritual intelligence mentoring class that you did. And by the way, that whole concept is another thing that I started way back in the 2006 or so, because I was teaching people how to become a bestseller on Amazon. And as a book, you're selling it for like $10 a book. But when I add the word mentoring, you basically set whatever amount you want. And so I'd have 100 people signing up for a course that cost $2,500 to learn how to do that, by sticking the word mentoring on there. So when you called your course Spiritual Intelligence Mentoring, I said, man, I've got to take that course. And of course, the Lord confirmed that anyways with saying I just needed to continue learning about how to do that. But what was fascinating, John, was I really I don't remember having dreams, through almost all my life. I do remember having, maybe I'll share this with you later, but I do remember having a nightmare back when I was in fourth grade.
Really?
but really like no dreams since. I mean, maybe my mind just turned it off. But one of the fascinating things that happened with your course, though, was, and I was sort of questioning myself, why am I doing this? Because I don't have dreams. And God, almost felt like he chuckled. But then he says, I've got something more for you. And it turned out to be you explaining Job 33, and how God sometimes will actually, give you a dream, download it, not into your mind, but more into your heart. And all of a sudden, I started having dreams almost every night, every other night, because God was also using that to teach me about the ecclesia warrior and how to do things on a more important spiritual level. And one of the things that he's been teaching me to do this for, one of the, he says that all of the prophecies need to come true that are in the Bible. And he needs Christians as the ecclesia to pray those things into existence, to make them happen. And other prophecies that he does give his people nowadays. And one of them was he wanted me to take out the fake news media, to actually take it down. And that's amazing that God would do that. And so I started having dreams when you taught about what happens in the process of dreaming, that it just connected with me. And the very next night, I had my first dream in years, and it was very special to me. So, what you're doing in teaching about dreams is extremely important, because now it's like downloading a whole book, through dreams about ecclesia warriors.
Wow. I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that God is using, he's using dreams to wake us up. And
Yep.
There's a massive awakening going on in America. It's happening politically. It's happening culturally. It's happening morally. It's happening even in the religious or the spiritual world. And man, if one of the main things that we do in everything that we do with our Dream Life Decoded team and our Spiritual Intel team is we just want people to know that God still speaks to them in dreams.
Yep.
And I love the fact that there's people that are now going to be in charge of states, because states and governors have been on the forefront of what's been happening politically the last 2 years for sure. And I think will continue to be, that there are people that are business people, just like I was, that were feeling the call to do something different, that decided to run for office, and that God is using people like yourself to literally rip pages right out of their prayer journal and hand it to them and say, hey, here you go, chicken scratch and all, right? Here you go. Here's a strategy that God has for us to be able to win, and to win big. And then it happens, it comes to pass, and God even confirms it again with just something simple like seeing a postcard, and God speaks to you when they win. And then you're able to encourage guys like Todd Gilbert and to just say, hey, it's not an if anymore. You guys are going to win. And when it does, I'm going to write this book. Well, man, I want to have you on when your book is done. We're coming to the end of our time today, but I want to be able to talk more about the Ecclesia Warriors and everything that you've done. But just in closing, what would you say to anybody that might be listening that is running for office, deciding to run for office, and wants to know how to put it, just real briefly, how to put into place some of the things that helped us turn Virginia red.
Well, the first thing is really be open, desiring to want to have righteous elections again. It's so important. I mean, basically, God has been saying, I still choose leaders. It might not be through Samuel. It is, though, especially through voting. And so God wants every person who's running for office to first and foremost want to be a part of a righteous election system. Basically, doing everything with integrity is so important, and doing it with all your might. Doing it, like Glen Youngkin did far beyond what I would have expected as sort of a local party chair for someone, like him to actually do those things. Let me share with you the fifth strategy was that Glenn had to use the church as the ecclesia, that to work with to work with the church to basically help win the election, and to basically have coalitions of churches and church groups, and they were started all over Virginia. We have one that's just real close to me in Harrisonburg, called Red Wave, Virginia. It's a church group that meets now once a month, and they meet for an hour of prayer, and then an hour of presentation on what they can do politically, and so their primary thing, but being open to having, the righteous elections is the most important thing, and basically using all resources. And by the way, again, Glenn going above and beyond what you'd ever expect. He actually hired Daniel Gade, who had lost his Senate campaign, hired him to be in charge of putting together the coalitions. I mean, hiring the best of the best.
That's amazing.
To do that, to hiring a Christian to get these groups together, and I believe that's a large part of it. The other thing, would be that you yourself need to be open to hearing from the Lord. If you're running for office, that God is going to choose the leader that He wants, and it's usually the leader that's going to do what He asks. And so, being open to doing what God wants is a really important thing. And there was another person that also had given Glenn, that I had met at a Republican meeting, that also gave Glenn basically a word from the Lord. And she had the exact same experience that I did, that Glenn really appreciated it. And so I know other people are willing to do that. And I know that that's a part of a spiritual intelligence service that we all need to have. Is, in fact, I recently went to what was our Virginia Republican, instead of a retreat, they call it an advance planning for the year. And there was a number of candidates that I spoke to, and they were very, very open to hearing what God wanted to say to them, for this coming up election. So I believe it's going to happen. I believe that people really want to know what it is that God wants them to do if they, become, an elected official.
So in closing, let me ask you this. This is incredible. I wish we had another hour. But let me ask you this.
We can definitely do another one later. Yep.
Yeah, we'll do another one later. But we've gone a little bit over on our time, but they can just watch the rest on YouTube then. But let me ask you this. In light of the success that you saw, literally birthed out of your own prayer life, out of your own desire to hear from God and spiritual intelligence, ripped a page, half a page out of your prayer journal, gave it to a businessman running for governor for the first time, running for political office, and seeing the success that literally has been all over the media, all around the country. What do you think? Do you think that's a harbinger leading into 2022 of what, not only what God can do to people that he's calling to run for office, but what he wants to do in restoring righteousness, integrity, and justice in this nation?
Absolutely. I certainly see that. And it's not just for high offices. It is for local school board, for town council. It's for those that they say are apolitical. It is that God wants people to be righteous, doers of his will. He wants
Wow.
believers in office. He really does.
Yeah, I tell you what, if you're running for office, make sure you have people on your team that know how to hear the voice of God, because
Amen.
they
Amen.
are invaluable. Spiritual intelligence is kind of a new thing that's out there, but it's more and more important. And I was so excited to hear from you the first time and hear the story that you had, and just begin to hear how God's done this incredible things in your life. And man, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, Randy. I really appreciate it.
Oh, certainly my pleasure. And again, I'm just going to plug again the spiritual intelligence mentoring course that you have is invaluable. I'm going into the third one,
Oh, wow.
SIM 3. Excitedly going into that because I know what's coming next is going to actually do more for me. I think than we could even possibly imagine. I mean, it's amazing what's coming up.
Wow. That's so great. Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And by the way, here's a picture that I wanted to share. This was Randy and I, when we met. I was headed for the holidays back to Ohio from Florida, and I took a detour into Virginia, and I'm so glad I did. We spent about 6 hours together, had dinner,
Yep.
just talked. Randy got his journals there with him and his dossier that he did, and man, we just got to really spend such a rich time. And man, I love the opportunity to get out and to meet people. But man, your story's it's really enriched my life, and I'm sure the life of everybody that's listening, and the hope for America that comes through in hearing that God is personally involved in not only your individual prayer time, like he'll speak to you on your couch, in your pajamas, drinking a cup of coffee in the morning, but he'll also speak to you things that you can whisper in the ears of people that are going to be the kings and queens of our day, people that are running for political office, that are going to be leaders, that are going to help turn things around for this nation. How encouraging is that? Wow.
Yeah, very much. And the end is not in sight. God has so much more than we can even imagine.
Yeah, he does. Well, wow. Well, thank you so much, Randy. I appreciate your time. And like I said, we'll have to have you on again when you get the book done and ready to
Yep.
publish. And man, it's been so good. It's been so good. I hope you walk away encouraged. We want you to know, first and foremost, that God still speaks today in dreams, in what we call spiritual intelligence. He speaks through prophetic words. If you get quiet and you get still, and you just even have a prayer journal and you listen, the things that he'll speak to you can literally change history. So thank you for joining us for this edition of Dream Talks, and we'll see you next time.